Hello friends, James Stevenson back with a fresh chart I just created this morning comparing GAAP profit per employee for Tesla versus General Motors versus Ford. Loki did help me out with that chart a little bit earlier this morning before he went to earn some, or to take some well-earned shut-eye in bed. You missed him eating breakfast earlier this morning. But I'll share my desktop with you and show you what I'm talking about. I just sent this tweet moments ago, captioning it, "Here's a little profit per employee comparison I made just now for Tesla, GM, and Ford. One of these companies has trended up and to the right over the past 4 years," with a little looking emoji here, the eyes. More than half of Ford's 2021 profit was a Rivian gain, so not an operating cash flow, just an investing cash flow. They made an investment in Rivian and took a mark-to-market gain on it that year, most of which they gave back the following year when the value of Rivian shares declined significantly. So this year they took a $9.1 billion up, and this year they took a $5.4 billion loss. So let's make this chart bigger. Yes, that worked. I got it sized up ahead of time so that it would fit the screen. So what are we looking at here? Well, the y-axis, the up and down that you see labeled to the left, is the GAAP profit / loss per employee, and I put the loss in red. Same as you see the y-axis label of negative $25,000 per employee in red. So anything below this line, the zero line, is a loss. But I didn't color these red to indicate that they're negative because I wanted two different kinds of indicators on these so that you could keep straight about which dots belong to which company. So I've got a legend up here showing you that the white dots are Tesla. So these circle markers here that go with the font that's also in white, same as the marker, show you what year these are. So in 2019, Tesla had about 50,000 employees, and they made a loss of about $20,000 per employee. You can see I'm not going with precise numbers here because precision does not matter. In the case of this chart, it doesn't make any difference to you exactly how big a loss per employee Tesla had that year. But the following year, in 2020, Tesla had more employees, about 25,000 more employees, and they made a profit. So this profit was, $10,000 per employee on a GAAP basis. Now the chart that I sent out yesterday was on a non-GAAP basis because I like using non-GAAP better. Wall Street likes non-GAAP better as well. But for whatever reason, macrotrends.net doesn't have non-GAAP. They have GAAP. And it was very easy to make this chart using their data for these three companies. I don't track Ford and GM closely, so every time I want to do a comparison against them, I need to go find their data. And it's a huge pain to sift through their investor relations documents because they split everything up between slide decks and financial PDFs and stuff, and it's hard to find all the info you're looking for that way. So I look for a shortcut, like finding a macrotrends.net that already has all the information in an easy to digest format that I can just copy and paste out and make charts out of quickly. So what's GM? They're in the gray and they're squares. So these squares over here are showing you in 2019 GM had about 160,000 employees and they made a little less than $50,000 worth of profit per employee. Then in 2020, they had a little less than 160,000 employees, and they made almost exactly the same earnings per employee. You would have thought it would have gone up with less employees, but it did not. Then in 2021, they still had about the same, a little less than 160,000 employees, and they made a little more than $50,000 profit per employee, probably closer to 60,000 per employee, the highest they got during this time frame, because in 2022 they had more employees, over 160,000 again. and their profit per employee fell right back to a little more than $50,000. What did Ford do? Well, in 2019, they broke even. They had a $47 million profit. Not billion, million, a $47 million profit in 2019, so barely above zero. Now, I'm not accusing them of jumping through any hoops to make a positive number out of what would have been a tiny loss that year. But they reported a $47 million profit in 2019. Then it was a loss in 2020, and so, maybe a $5,000 loss per employee or something. Then the following year, that jumped way up here to almost $100,000 worth of profit per employee, but none of Ford's employees, well, not very many of Ford's employees, can take credit for most of this gain because it was just Ford's investment in Rivian that increased in value by $9.1 billion that year. And then in 2022, the biggest loss of the 4 years would have actually been a profit if not for $5.4 billion of this reversing. So if I were to adjust for both of those things, these would both have been profitable years, but neither of them would have been anywhere close to this. They would have both been below $50,000 per employee. And so yeah, there's a clear up and to the right trend for Tesla. Tesla makes more profit per employee every year, and these other companies do not. And I'll just show you very briefly if I can make it fit my page well. Let's see here. Can I get this to fit the page in time? Yeah, this looks okay. So here's the data. Now, I'll give you a sneak preview that nobody else gets. Let me drag this over. So there's the $9.1 billion Rivian gain in 2021 that I mentioned, and the $5.4 billion Rivian loss that I mentioned in 2022. I have those noted here, but I'll cover those up for a second and then resize this chart a little bit. Well, maybe what I'll do next is unhide all the missing years. This chart gets very busy and very confusing when you do this. And it is not cooperating with me at the moment. There it goes. Okay, and now I need to make this fit. Let's see if I can shrink this down. I need to shrink it down more because I expanded it. So this is what it looks like if you show every year from 2010 through 2022. So every company gets 12 dots. You can see Ford had an okay year in 2013 with, a little more than $60,000 per employee worth of profit. 2021 still their best year by far after you throw all those in. GM just kind of floating around in this range, and Tesla a couple more dots, with the rest being below the $25,000 profit per employee line. And with that, I will end the video, check back in with Loki, see what he's up to, and I'll say if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel over here and click the notification bell to get alerted whenever I post fresh content. Thank you to everyone who supports me through Patreon, especially my executive producers, Kathy Kitchler and Halter Ferguson Financial. And I'll see you in the next one.